Welcome back to the Angry Cast and No Man's Sky, the Chronicles. You make plans. You dream. You plot out every step until you are the astronaut, actor, sports star, scientist, or homemaker you thought you would be in your mind at age 10. You enjoy moments in your life where the world is at your command. The room may be quiet, but your mind is buzzing so loud it could wake the dead. Life is good. You know when you grow up that you will conquer the world with your dreams and schemes. Then, you grow up, and those moments turn on you. The reality is that very few of us actually end up where we thought we would, and that's okay. There are things in my life I'd probably like to change. There are decisions that I wish I could do over, as if I hadn't taken my thumb off the page I flipped from in that choose-your-own-adventure book called My Early 20s. But that isn't the case. In fact, you have to be careful not to dwell on those thoughts of what you would do over again if given the opportunity. Your past isn't a do-over. When you're a kid, no one is dependent on you in an everyday scenario. But when you're an adult and on your own, others may be dependent on you. Your decisions could be as important as a chess move against Bobby Fischer or even death himself. I mean, I could be wrong, though. Your life may be a world of rainbows and unicorn fluff, but for most people, it's as monotonous and plain as your mother's curtains. What's worse is when you think you've got it all made and you've made all the right moves and life decides to change the game. Doesn't seem like much. The days go by like they normally do, but when you look back and a week has gone by, a month, a year, and you haven't really moved. It may not hit you at first, but there are these little moments when you've put your kids to bed, or you've read everything you need to do for the next day of your hectic life, and maybe you're sitting alone on your couch, looking over some social media posts, and then it hits you. There are no distractions right now, like broken toys or spilled milk. Panic begins to set in. You think about your age. You think about your life. You think about death. The quiet scares the hell out of you. What the hell have you done with your life? No one expects you to keep a 20-year plan when you were a kid. But in your 40s, just getting through the day and accomplishing one single task seems like a huge victory. Like I said, your life could be perfect. You could have a healthy kid and a wonderful spouse. You could live in a home and be wealthy and safe and secure. But what happens if that were all to go away? What about some of it? What about one thing? What one thing could turn your life upside down and force you to shelve all those hopes and dreams you had or have in your life? And could you deal? We live in an age where everyone is connected, and yet we find ourselves more alone than ever. And it's these quiet moments in our life that kill. I remember sitting in a hotel room in Nashville alone about 10 years ago. I was on a business trip, and at 9 in the evening, I was just sitting there, no television on, just being. I'd already talked to my family and my friends who were online and or were somewhere else, and I had just disconnected. I had a brief panic attack because I was just there. Invisible. I was in this strange city, a city that didn't know me. If I were to walk outside and be hit by a car without explicit information detailing who I was, no one would know where I came from, and those who were where I came from would have no idea unless I were to not check in, and even then, the time it would take to connect all of those dots would be an infinity. It was a bit unsettling to know that I, for lack of a better description, did not really exist in the exact location I was in. The same thing happened to me 25 years ago in 1993. I was a freshman at college. I was at a university in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It was a Friday night. I don't remember which. We didn't have internet or cell phones in 1993, and I didn't have money to call my then high school girlfriend that I had been dating for over a year. One of my roommates had gone home for the weekend, which was about an hour away, and the other two that I roomed with were volunteer firemen, and they were out hanging out at the station or doing whatever. I was there alone. We didn't have cable. I had an old 286 computer with a handful of games, and I was in that quiet. Now, granted, I was 18 and my whole life was ahead of me, but it was like that night in 1993 and 2008 had somehow connected to each other in the universe. The quiet of my room in Nashville, in that hotel room, ripped a wormhole back into 1993 and attached itself to that 18-year-old me in Myrtle Beach, and it sucked the life right out of him, leaving me nearly hyperventilating from panic. There he was, in an apartment, sitting on his bed, petrified. He was unable to move. The silence was deafening, and even though it was occasionally broken by the sound of an air conditioner kicking in, it was one of those moments where a ticking clock would appear and it would suddenly stop. All of the air sucked out of the room, and this kid sat there existing, yet not. The entire world around him, in its own timeline, had just moved on, and he sat there still, motionless, panicking, being left behind. And then he was thrust back into the space-time continuum as if nothing had happened. I was so scared at that moment, but then something happened. I looked beyond that fear and stood in wonder at what had just happened. I want to understand what it is that gives me such pause that it rips me from my existence, if even for just one moment. There have been other nights where I looked for the quiet, seeing if it would open up another time into my childhood, or any other time in my life. Those nights when my kid would be sick or she would just lie there, quiet, not wreaking havoc across the house. I wondered what childhood moment they would attempt to steal. What hope they would choose to supplant with crippling fear that I have failed everyone around me as an adult. It felt like I was in some horror movie, and the noises and distractions are like a light shining around me to keep out the evil monsters. Then I would wonder if there were others like me. Maybe the quiet comes to them and finds their childhood moments. I wondered if they were in that quiet moment and had the same crippling fears, that somehow maybe we would connect to each other's moments and it would cancel them out. Life is never what it intends to be. It's what we make of it. And we need that to make that quiet work for us. We need to master our own quiet moments. We need to reverse the flow, allowing those childhood moments to come back to us as adults. We need that positive force pushing out the quiet. Our lives are still under our control, and we can make it better, but we have to try. Our intent should be to augment, not destroy, though. We still have those around us that they depend on our stability. They are balanced on our shoulders, and too quick of a direction change could dislodge their footing. We need them as much as they need us, because they are a part of that new future, a better one. One where the quiet is ours for the making.